So cheers for having me on West Brom Fan TV for this opposition fan preview. So obviously the Premier League's already back. It feels like it only just finished. Obviously there's been a shortened break due to the circumstances. Obviously you guys know about that. I'm not going to go into it too much detail, but it means we've only had a month since the last Premier League season finished and this game starting. So for us, we're not in the ideal situation at all, really. We've got no end of injuries. We really haven't had the transfer window we hoped for. But at the same time, we've still got a very good starting 11. So in terms of our transfer window, I think a lot of people a lot of Leicester fans were hoping to the depth that we have and also maybe sign a winger and a centre-back. So far, all we've done is signed a left-back in terms of Castagne to replace Chilwell, who left for Chelsea. But at the same time, we are heavily linked to Wesley Fofana, and that looks like that could be a done deal in the next couple of days. So that'll fill the centre-back void that we've got. And then David Brooks as a right winger. I'm hoping that one gets over the line, but that's a bit of a harder deal than Wesley Fofana. Anyway, less about Leicester transfers and more onto the West Brom game, obviously the opening game of the season. So for you guys, obviously you got promoted from the Championship last year, as you guys know, played some very, very good football at times. And it's going to be far, far from an easy game. And I'm expecting you to give us a very hard game at the Hawthorns. And I'm expecting you guys to be absolutely buzzing. And if it was a packed out Hawthorns, it would be an even harder game than it's already going to be. But it's still going to be a very, very difficult game. We haven't looked the best during pre-season, but again, you don't want to read too much into pre-season. We've had a lot of players away on international duty, resting. And as well, we've been playing against sort of League One Championship teams. And you can't really gauge it too much. But at the same time, we still haven't looked massively impressive. But a win could be absolutely massive for us. And it seems strange saying that about a newly promoted team compared to a team that finished in Europa League last year. And obviously, we did very well to finish in the Europa League. If you'd said that at the start of the season, most Leicester fans would have been absolutely thrilled with that. But the fact that we were in the top four for 95% of the season and then on the last game we dropped out was very, very frustrating. But that really started in January. We were awful from January onwards, and I'm surprised it took that long for us to drop out, because I think it's something like we've only had 4 wins since January. So a win against West Brom could almost be a reset button, start of a new season and go again. But if we do lose or potentially even draw against West Brom, the slump could continue. And it looks like, well, at the end of last season, it looked like we had absolutely no confidence about us. But if we can get a win, you guys will know it as well, but a win just builds confidence and stuff, and hopefully we carry that on throughout the season. So in terms of Leicester, this is an absolutely huge game of sort of resetting. In terms of the starting 11 that Brendan Rodgers goes with, this could be absolutely anything. We've got a lot of players injured. I'm going to go through a couple now for you. So we've got no Ricardo Pereira, and that's probably the biggest loss for us. And that's because the way we play football, the right back is so important in terms of getting forward, playing expansive football. Ricardo Pereira is probably our best player, I'd argue, alongside Ndidi and Vardy. So that's going to be a huge miss for us. No Maddison, so that's a lot of creativity gone through the midfield. We saw at the end of last season how important he is to us. He sort of dictates a play, which he's going to be a huge loss for us. But he might be back, but Brendan Rodgers is saying it's a massive doubt. I'd rather him sit out this game than risk making an injury any worse and missing any more time, because we do need him back as soon as possible, but we need him back for the majority of the season, not just one game to extend his injury again, because that's what happened last time. We played him against Everton. He wasn't fully fit, and it made his injury a lot worse. Filip Benkovic is another one who's got an injury. Obviously, he was on loan at Bristol City last year, and to be honest, he was probably going to play if he hadn't got injured, because we've got so little depth at centre-back. We've got Siunchu, who's absolutely brilliant. Johnny Evans, who's class, but he can't play. Obviously, you guys know how good Johnny Evans is, West Brom fans. But he can't play because he's suspended. So Benkovic probably was going to play. But in typical Benkovic style, he's gone and got an injury. Wes Morgan injured, which the fact that I'm concerned that Wes Morgan's got an injury just shows sort of how little depth we've got at centre-back. But I'm concerned a 36-year-old centre-back's got injured. And then Fuchs and Namati have also got injured, but I don't think either of those would have featured anyway. So in terms of the starting 11, it is anyone's guess what we're going to go for. I'm going to go with the 4-1-4-1 because that's a formation we played throughout a lot of last season, and I don't think we've got the players available to play 5 at the back, which Brendan Rodgers seems to be sort of pushing towards slightly. But again, I could be wrong, and we could end up with a 5 at the back against you guys, but In terms of the starting 11, so it'll be Schmeichel in goal and he will be our captain. So then at right back, we're going to have James Justin because there's no Ricardo Pereira, and he came in at the end of last season. He did a decent job. He's a very raw talent, but he's a very talented player. And then the centre-backs are going to have Kaglar Sionchu, again, obviously outstanding season last season. Sort of came out of nowhere. Maguire went and we thought, oh God, we're going to be in a bit of a problem here. But Sionchu stepped up and you could argue he was even better than what Maguire was for us. Alongside him, we're going to have Ndidi, and I don't want to see this, but Brendan Rodgers has been using Ndidi as a centre-back during pre-season just because of the lack of depth that we've got there. And Ndidi's done well at centre-back. The reason I don't want to see him there is how good he is in the midfield, and we lose that, obviously, when he goes to centre-back. So I ideally don't want to see that, but I don't think we've really got much choice, to be honest. And at left-back, we've got Castagnier, the Chilwell replacement. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Obviously, Belgian international, got a high reputation. It'll be interesting to see. I think he's a much more offensive player than defensive, so similar to Chilwell, but I do think he's still slightly better defensively than Chilwell. But anyway, heading into the midfield, so for one holding midfielder, we've got Dewsbury Hall, and he's sort of been one of the bright sparks of our pre-season. Very, very exciting young player. He was out on loan at Blackpool last season. The Blackpool fans loved him, and he does look massively talented, but it's going to be a huge step up playing in the Premier League to League One. The two midfielders in front of Dewsbury Hall, so the creative midfielders, the sort of roaming eights as Brendan Rodgers plays them, will be Dennis Praet and Yuri Tielemans, obviously the Belgian pair. No James Maddison, so Dennis Praet comes in. And I thought Dennis Praet was one of our more underrated players this season, but we're going to want to be getting Tielemans on the ball as much as possible, creating chances for our attacking players. On the left-hand side, it's going to be a player that you guys know all about, and that's going to be Harvey Barnes. Obviously, went on loan, did very well with you guys in the Championship. And he had a very good season last year. Slightly inconsistent, but you would expect that with a young player sort of coming through. I'm hoping he can have another season this year where he really kicks on from the good stuff that he was doing last year. There's a couple of times where his decision-making let him down slightly, but I do think that'll come with time with him. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to have Iosi Perez, and I really didn't want to be saying this at the start of the season, but we still don't have a right winger. And I'm a huge fan of Iosi Perez, and you can go through my channel and look at a lot of videos. I love him as a player, but not as a winger. We signed him as a central player, but he's been forced to play on the wing because we don't have really any options there. And he's done a decent job there, don't get me wrong, and his link-up play has been very good, but you can tell at times he's not a winger. That's why I was really hoping we'd bring in David Brooks or someone like that. But Perez, he does have obviously quite a lot of threat about him. He'll be trying to get the ball forward to Vardy and stuff, so he is a player you need to be careful of and stuff. But again, I would have liked it so that we did have an out-and-out winger there, but we don't have yet. But hopefully by the end of the transfer window we might. I'm not convinced. Obviously, for Leicester, we're owned by King Power, which is a duty-free company. Obviously, airports are closed. You guys can work it out, really. But the money's not really there for us this summer, but it is what it is. And then at striker, the main man, Jamie Vardy. You guys know all about Vardy. Loves scoring up the Hawthorns. Golden Boot winner. And I'm interested to see if he does score at the Hawthorns this year. Does he celebrate sort of in that little corner that he always runs away to? Or does he not really celebrate? I'll be interested to see that. But that's my starting 11. So expect just an hour before kick-off that to be completely wrong and Brendan Rodgers to have gone with something completely different. But anyway, thank you for having me on West Brom Fan TV. I really appreciate it. If you guys could check out my channel, it would be massively appreciated. Leicester home and away match day vlogs when the football's back properly. And until then, just keeping up to date with lots of Leicester news and sort of match day reactions and all that good stuff. But anyway, cheers for having me on.